If you have a question, you can submit a question. There's the little hand icon that should be at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that and you type in a question, my colleague Erica will be monitoring the inquiries that are coming in. And at the end of my presentation, we should have some time for some questions and answers. So the goals for our session today, and anytime I'm working with someone on planning for their pet, is to provide you with some very practical resources, information that you can use very easily, quickly, and for free to give you peace of mind. We all care so much about our pets, and we want to know that they'll be well taken care of if something happens to us. And a lot of what I'm describing is the goal is to make any transition that might be needed or happen to go as smoothly as possible for your pet. So this information that I'll be going over, it should be applicable whether your plan for your pet would be to come to Animal Humane, New Mexico, or if your plan would be for your pets to go to somebody that you know, a friend or family member, someone that you have already picked out. So when I am talking with folks, I tell people to think about planning for your pet in two phases. There's the short term or immediate term, and then the long term. And by short term, I mean, let's say something happened to you tomorrow, that day, the next day, or the following day. Who would be able to take care of your pet? And for this temporary role, I recommend you identify somebody that I call a pet agent. So this isn't the person who's your long-term plan for your pet, but there's somebody who just agrees to fulfill this short-term role, which is to secure your pet and care for your pet. So this could be a neighbor, a friend, someone you trust. And this is somebody that agrees to fulfill this temporary role. That means they are familiar with your pets, that they can get into your house, that they can get around your alarm system. They can feed your pets and make sure they're all right. And they can begin the process of handling the coordination, the transport, to the plans that you have set in place longer term for your pets. So to help with this phase, we have a number of tools, and these are things that I'm happy to send to you if you would like them. So for example, a window cling. I have this window cling right by our front door in the window, and it lets folks know that we have a dog and who the emergency contact is. So that would be your pet agent in this case. So I have a neighbor a few doors down the street. I've got their phone number here and their address. And this is someone who knows my pet. They have a key to our house, and they've agreed to let me list them as the emergency contact. Also, we have a refrigerator magnet. And here you can see you could list a bit more detail of your pets. Very often when paramedics, for example, might come into your house, or firefighters, they would look on your refrigerator for any kind of emergency related instructions. And so here again, you can have the emergency contact that you've identified, your veterinarian. You can put notes on behavior. So for example, my cat is normally, you can find them in the bedroom closet. That's where they like to hide. So those can be helpful. And then we also have pet emergency info wallet cards. I've got mine in my wallet right behind my driver's license. So if, say, I ended up in an emergency room, they would probably look in my wallet to find my identification, and right behind it, they would find this card that again has information that would be helpful to them. And then finally, this is an option that somebody just let me know about. And it is a website service called IamFine.com. And what they do is, I think it's about $14.99 a month. It's less if you sign up for a year. And what they do is they basically make a check-in phone call to you every day at an agreed upon time. And if for some reason you don't answer the daily call, they have a list of contacts that you have given them that they will start calling to check on you. And as you can see from this screenshot of their website, they also will take into account knowledge of if you have any pets. So you could have one of the contacts, for example, be that pet agent or a veterinarian. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't personally used them, but I just wanted to share that. If you do a search on iamfine.com, you will find them and can look into it. So longer term planning for your pet. So this, as I mentioned before, this would be what would be the permanent adopter or home for your pet, which could be somebody you've identified and you've talked to them about taking your pet, or it could be Animal Humane, or it could be another rescue group. And a main tool we have for this part of the planning are what we call pet planning profiles. So here's our feline pet profile. And as you can see, it's basically a list of questions. And I'm just giving you a screenshot here. I'm happy to send you our cat or dog profile if you would like. And the thinking behind the profile is to get you to think about and answer questions that would be helpful for either your next pet adopter or for us to know about your pets. We receive pets here at Animal Humane every day for different reasons: owner surrenders, strays, transfers from other shelters, and most of the time we don't know very much, if anything, about their history. So to the extent that you as a pet parent can put a few things down on paper, it can make a transition much more smooth, and it can help us find the next adoptive home. Now, we do have systems and techniques for learning about the behavior of our pets to help make a great adoption match. But if you look at this list, there are questions to get you thinking. For example, how does my pet respond when he's afraid? Has my pet ever lived with other dogs or cats? Has my pet lived with children? And these questions, even though our profiles are for dogs and cats, because that's what we take care at the shelter, you could adopt these questions for other kinds of pets like birds or turtles, and it would work. Certainly, questions about veterinary history or medical conditions. This is actually a two-sided form, so I tell people it's a very long list. Just answer the questions that are relevant for your pet. And what I also provide people are some examples of what some other folks have done. So for example, this pet owner, she has multiple pets, and she actually wrote out a paragraph about each pet, and has supplied a photo. This person did a spreadsheet and also provided a photo. Other people, they might provide a bulleted list. I tell people I don't want you to get overwhelmed by this activity. You can do it in bits and pieces. If your plan is for your pet to come to us, you are welcome to just send me emails as you think of things that you want us to know about your pet. What I do, if your pet might be coming to us, is I compile all of this information. I keep a paper file and I keep a digital file. So if in the event your pet does come to our shelter, I'm able to pull it up and we can use that to care for your pet and find the next adoptive home. So if your plan is for your pet to go to a friend or a family member, you could go ahead and share this information with that person. So some of you submitted questions when you registered. So I think we've answered all of these questions, and I'm also going to answer them in the next few minutes. If I don't answer a question fully, or if you think of a question at any time, even after this webinar, you're welcome to reach out to me and let me know. And I've incorporated some common questions that I hear very often when working with folks. And the questions generally seem to fall into two main categories. One category has to do with if your pets are coming to Animal Humane, about their care and our processes here. So I'll answer some of those first. And then the other category or line of questioning has to do with estate planning. How do you set what your wishes up in your will or pet trust? So I also will talk about some of those questions as well. So for example, one question I often receive is, if Animal Humane is taking my pet, does my pet have to actually go live in your shelter? And the answer to this question is yes. Any pet that we are taking care of, it's our pet at that point, and we want them here in our shelter so we can provide them with all the veterinary care and all the behavioral support, so we can monitor their quality of life and their behavior, how they're feeling while they're here, and certainly so we can work as quickly as possible to find them their next adopted home. Can you come pick up my pet? Unfortunately, no, and that is why a pet agent is important. That is one of the main roles of your pet agent, is to transfer your pet to us or to whatever your next planned step is for your pet. What is the euthanasia decision process? Here at Animal Humane, we do not euthanize for space or length of stay. We do euthanize for medical reasons and for behavioral reasons. In terms of medical reasons, euthanasia decisions are made by our veterinary staff based on their expertise, based on considerations such as, is a pet suffering? Does a pet have a medical condition that would diminish their quality of life, even if we were able to maybe stabilize them? In terms of behavior, that is less common, but that decision is a group decision. We have a team, an interdepartmental team here that considers euthanasia for behavior reasons. And that's usually related to a pet that is aggressive and that we think would be a danger if we adopted them into a home. So for example, they have bitten people, and they have bitten people in situations that are very common and typical and likely to happen again. So we do euthanize in those cases. Will you keep bonded pets together? Yes, we do keep bonded pets together. As I said, there's no limit on length of stay. It can take longer for bonded pets to become adoptable, but we will keep them together. People do come to us wanting 2 cats or 2 dogs. So there are adopters out there. We know they're out there. So we do keep bonded pets together. One thing I will say is that it can happen where we're told pets are bonded, and once they come into our shelter and we start caring for them, we keep them together. We observe that they're actually not doing well together. Maybe they actually start fighting while they're together. So our behavior team, who are experts in cat and dog behavior, if they make the determination that it is better to separate pets, we will do what's called unbonding. We will unbond them and we will adopt them out separately. And that is, again, usually a group decision here when that happens. One question that came in, is there a way to keep pets together and then cremated and returned to our designee for burial? So I just talked about adopting out bonded pets together. Yes, we can do that. But in terms of our being able to guarantee that whoever adopts those pets would agree to cremate them and then eventually return them or bring them to somebody you've designated, we unfortunately would not be able to guarantee that, because once the pets are adopted, we could certainly pass on the information that the previous owner for these pets would like this, but there really is no guarantee that an adopter would follow up on that. If this is important to you, then I guess something that would make it more likely to happen is if, instead of your pets coming here, as if you had identified an adopter, a friend, someone you trust who agrees to do this. And that would make that more likely. So the next line of questioning have to do more with estate planning. Do I have to include a gift in my will to Animal Humane New Mexico? And no, we do not require that you include a gift in your estate. Many people do. It is much appreciated. It certainly helps care for your pet and care for the thousands of other pets that we rescue and adopt out every year. Can I leave you a trust to pay for my pet's future care? How do I set up a trust? So if you are setting up a trust, and the way this is phrased is, can I leave you a trust? So I assume, can I leave Animal Humane New Mexico a trust? If you are setting up a trust and your intention is for us to be the beneficiary, the trust wouldn't be our trust, because the whole point of a trust is the trust is separate from whatever entity or individuals might receive payments or benefits from the trust. So on the one hand, we would not be the trustee or own the trust that we might be receiving gifts from. Similarly, if you set up, say, a pet trust or any other kind of trust, and you needed a trustee, we would not agree to act as trustee. So how do I set up a trust? And I think this is kind of related to other questions of leaving money to care for your pets. So there are different ways to leave money to care for your pets. One is what is called a pet care trust. Trusts, if you search, you can certainly find information on do-it-yourself trusts and pet care trusts. They are considered a little bit more complicated. So there are an estate professional or an estate attorney can help you set one up. Usually it is assumed that you have a friend or a family member that you trust who agrees to be the trustee. If you do not have somebody like this, you can hire a professional trust company to act as trustee. They do charge fees for this, annual fees that would come out of your trust. So for many people, that is worth it to them. And so you can talk to a trust company and ask them how much they charge and how it would work. You can also leave money to care for your pets in your will. This is a bit more straightforward, especially if you have identified a person who has agreed to adopt your pets. You can say, and I think I've got some examples. I've got an example coming up that says, I leave Jennifer Brown to care for my pets, and I'm including this dollar gift to be used for my pet's care. You can do that for an organization as well. If you set up a pet trust, it is a bit more formal. And the thinking is that the trustee, who is separate from the pet owner, who would then be possibly receiving money from the trust to care from your pet, they would be administering, and they would be working with who's ever caring for your pets to receive those funds. So that means you need to think out and outline for your trustee how this would work. Would the adopter of your pet, or the eventual adopter of your pet, receive a monthly dollar amount upfront to care for your pet? Would the adopter need to submit receipts that are related to your pet's care in order to receive reimbursement? If the adopter wanted to spend money on your pet that's above a certain dollar amount, would they need to get pre-approval from your trustee? These are all things that you would be asked when you're setting up your trust. And for example, maybe if you're working with an attorney, to think ahead so your trustee knows how to administer the funds you've set up for your pets and agrees to follow them. How much do I leave to care for my pet? Whether you're leaving money in your will or your trust. This is a good question. And the best answer would be something that would really be up to you based on your knowledge and of the lifestyle that one you've provided to your pet and the lifestyle you want to ensure for your pet going forward. So for example, do you buy a certain kind of pet food at the pet food store? Or do you have raw frozen food delivered to your house every week for your pets? Depending on how you handle that, you know how much that costs. And if you want your pet to continue to receive that kind of food, you would look at how much does that cost you per year and how many years do you think your pet has left to live? So if your pet might live for 6 more years, you would want to include a gift that would cover six years of that expense. Do you bring your dogs to doggy daycare 3 days a week? How much does that cost? You can figure that out and then extrapolate. It is, of course, a guess, but these are the kinds of considerations you would look at to come up with the best guess that you can. If you have a gift that you've figured out for your trust and your will, you can also include instructions that if at the time my pet passes away and there is money left over in the trust, or there is money left over from my initial gift, that I would like any remainder of that money either to be donated to Animal Humane or another rescue group, or I would like my pet's adopter to keep that money as a gift, or I would like that money to go to such and such person. Again, I guess a theme that you're picking up on is to think in detail about the different scenarios, what you would want for your pets, and then to put it in writing, whether it's in your will or in a pet trust, so everyone knows and it's clear. What is a pet power of attorney? So pet power of attorney and a human power of attorney is different from a will in that a power of attorney is a tool that is in effect while you're alive. So once you pass away, a power of attorney is no longer in effect. So why would you have a pet power of attorney while you're alive? Well, for example, maybe you are going on a 3-month trip and you're leaving your pets in the care of somebody. A power of attorney makes it clear that, for example, this person or the entity you're boarding the pet with, they have the authority and your permission to make decisions about the care of your pets. You can put in there a maximum dollar limit. They can spend without your approval. So you might say this person is authorized to approve up to $5,000 in veterinary care without having to contact me. It could also be used, for example, if you're going to have surgery and you know you're going to be in a rehab facility for a certain amount of time. You can set it up, power of attorney, to be just for that time frame. And again, to have these clear instructions. A revocable pet power of attorney is in effect from the time you sign it, and it stays open until you close it. So that's kind of like a backup plan. If, for example, you end up incapacitated suddenly and you're not able to make decisions for your pet. So it's a bit more long-term. So that's an example of how that differs from a will. One question that came in is how to plan for pets you don't know you will own until later. Well, you could put very general language in your will. Uh, so, for example, I leave any pets that I might own at the time of my passing to such and such person. So I have seen that. However, if you do that, I would encourage you to, even if you don't update your will, that you do keep updated information, whether it's just a supplement to your will or it's something that is documented with your will or something you've provided to your personal representative or that pet agent that is updated. And I will give you an example of why I recommend this. We had a case about a year and a half ago where a gentleman had passed away. And we found this out because we received in the mail a copy of his will. We did not know we were in his will. He had left us his house. Two, we did not know he had passed away. And so I started reading the will, and the will had been done about 6 years ago. And in there, there was a paragraph that said, and I leave to Animal Humane 2 dogs and 2 or 3 turtles that are in the yard. So you can imagine my panic when I read this, thinking, okay, this gentleman passed away 6 months ago. Where are these dogs and the turtles? And one, if he had let me know and let us know at the time he was making his will that these were the plans, I would have told him, well, we don't take turtles, but let's find an appropriate rescue group that would take your turtles. And two or a couple of turtles is actually what it said in his will. That's not very clear. So let's say even if we did go into his yard or an appropriate rescue group went over to his yard, is that 2 turtles or 3 turtles? If we found 2 turtles, how would we know that we have them all? And so I'm giving you this example. One, it would have been good if he'd let us know we were in his will, and two, if he had shared his instructions so we could have given him some input. And to make a long story short, just to reassure you, I was able to make contact with a relative who said at the time he passed away, there weren't any dogs or turtles at his house. So that was a huge relief. But for a few days there, we had a lot of concern about the welfare of these animals. So that's why you should keep this information updated, but I don't think you need to update your will to keep this kind of information current. How to state in your will. So here's an example. One resource I have that I will be sharing is we do have some examples. This is a pretty basic example. I leave my heel or mix Buster and X dollars to John Smith with the hope the money will be used for Buster's care. If John Smith does not survive me, I leave Buster and X amount of dollars to Jenny Brown with the hope the money will be used for Buster's care. So you can see in this example, the phrase is with the hope the money will be used for Buster's care. And that is because if you leave money in your will for the care of your pets, just to let you know, there really is no way legally to guarantee that John or Jenny will actually use that money for the care of your pet. It's not really legally enforceable. So that's why in this example I found it was phrased with the hope. So that's why, one, it's important to find people that you trust and believe will actually use the money you leave for the care of your pet. That is also an example of why some people set up trusts, because if you have a pet trust that is a bit more enforceable, it's also a bit more bureaucratic. There are more steps, a bit more work to set up. And for the pet owner, adopter, there are these hoops they have to jump through. But it is a vehicle for ensuring your gift will be used the way that you intended. But I certainly see this kind of language in plenty of wills. So this is an example of if your pet is to come to Animal Humane. I leave my heel or mix Buster to Animal Humane with the sum of X dollars for general purposes of said nonprofit. So in this example, you can see I haven't necessarily tied the gift specifically to the care of the pet. And I usually advise people to do this for several reasons. One, if you have in your will that your gift is to be used only for the care of your pet, it can be a bit too restrictive because we have no way of knowing really how much we're going to spend on the care of your pet. If your pet comes here and they're just here for a few days, it may not be very much. Or if your pet ends up being here for several months and needing a lot of veterinary care, then it's going to be more. So in either case, regardless, we're not going to tie how we're caring for your pet to how much money you leave us. If your pet does not spend much time here and you leave us a generous gift, we will put that money to good use for our mission, rescuing and helping thousands of other pets. On the flip side, if you leave us a gift and your pet is here for a long time and we end up spending more than your gift, we're not going to stop caring for your pet or euthanize your pet for that reason. We are going to provide whatever your pet needs to move on to its next adoptive home. So this wording gives the most flexibility and provides support and help for our shelter's work. And before I move on to some other resources, something else to keep in mind is if you are working on writing a will, one thing I offer to people is I'm happy to review just this section of your will that might pertain to the care of your pets and or gifts to Animal Humane. I don't need to review or see your entire will, but I can look at that section and I can give you feedback if this isn't clear, but this is a way you could phrase this more clearly, or the way you have stated this, it would be very difficult for us to promise. So I suggest you write it this way. So I can give you that kind of input. So keep that in mind. So some other resources that we have, and the follow-up email has a link to our website. This is what it looks like, where a lot of this information and these tools are referenced. So for example, up at the top there, I've got some information that people often need when they're including Animal Humane in their will, or if you're including us as a beneficiary for some other financial tool. So our EIN number, that's our tax ID number. That's a unique identifier to us, and our legal name, Animal Humane Association of New Mexico, Inc., and our address. So it's good to refer to us using that tax ID number and our legal name, so there's no confusion about which organization you have in mind. Sometimes we've had wills and the term that's used is the Humane Society of New Mexico. Well, there actually is no entity in existence as the Humane Society of New Mexico. So it can cause confusion. Did the donor mean the Humane Society, which is a national organization that we're not affiliated with, or did they mean Animal Humane Association of New Mexico? So if you have that tax ID number, there's no question about that. And you can see the second tab or option is something called create a will today for free. So that's another tool that we have available. We have partnered with a platform called freewill.com to make a tool available. And freewill.com was developed because it's well known that a lot of people don't have wills, and there are some very common reasons why that is. So, for example, it can seem overwhelming and very time consuming. People say they just don't know how to go about creating a will. People assume it's expensive. They just don't want to have to deal with an attorney. They don't see the need, or they just don't feel they have enough assets to make it important. But what I've seen certainly is if people, for other reasons, don't feel they need a will or to make plans, if they have a pet, that can be a big motivator to make a will. So again, they are providing for their pets and providing for a smooth transition. So the folks at freewill.com, keeping in mind these barriers that people have, they've developed a do-it-yourself tool that is very intuitive, multiple choice. If you have a simple estate, a simple situation or plans, you can get on this site for free and you can make a will for yourself in as few as 15 or 20 minutes. You can save your work. You can go back and update it. So I'll be including a link to freewill.com. They've created this site in conjunction with us for our donors. And I'm going to show you a few screenshots just to show you how it's outlined and laid out and how pretty intuitive and easy it is to use. So it really is almost all multiple choice. And it leads you through questions. And based on how you answer those questions, it then kind of fills in the additional questions as applicable. So for example, it's starting off, are you single, married, domestic partnership? What do you estimate is maybe the total value of your estate? And then you can see there's a section in there that is just for pets, planning for your pet. So this is really great, I think. So it asks, do you have any pets you'd like to provide for in your will? If you answer no, then it's going to move on to the next section of questions. But if you say yes, it is going to prompt you to start filling in information about those pets. What are their names? What kind of pets are they? Do you want to leave a gift in your will for the care of your pets? And to whom do you want to leave your pets? And here in this example, it's Animal Humane, but it could be a person that you have spoken with. So it makes it very easy. And then it leads you through leaving any other kinds of gifts you might have, whether they're real estate, cars, money, collections, digital assets, and you can put in a description, what your wishes are, and then it even prompts you to send an email to the people you're including in your will to give them a heads up. And here's an example of that where it's saying, okay, this is what you've outlined. $10,000 in cash to Sarah. Do you want to edit that or change that? You're leaving your card to Karen. Do you want to edit or change that? And so as you're going through the site, it's collecting and saving this information so it can create at the final step a will for you. And at one point it asks, would you like to leave a gift to Animal Humane? You absolutely do not have to use the tool. And it gives you the opportunity to leave gifts for any other nonprofit that you might want to leave a gift to. It asks you if you want to pick executors for your will. So it also includes funeral wishes if you want to include that. You can skip over these sections if you don't want to. Here's an example of the screen where it lets you very easily notify those you've included in your will. So you put in their email, it brings up an email template that you can just hit send, makes that part very easy. And here's an example of a will. So I went through and I filled out all the questions. The final step is a will that you can print out. It walks you through how many people you want to sign it, whether you want it notarized. If you answer yes, it includes that in your final will. You can print this out and sign it, or if you decide you do want to work with an attorney, you can print this out, bring this with you to your meeting with an estate attorney, and it can save a lot of time and possibly money because it's helped you organize all of this information in one place. So this is a PDF or an image file. That means you can't change it. And the reason they have it set up that way is because it's formatted to be a legally valid will, so they don't want you to change it. So if you have edits or changes, you log back in and you make the change, and it will pull up an updated, refreshed PDF or image file for you to print out. Then it leads you through next steps. Read through it, sign this, keep it safe, go back and update it if you wish. You want to notify people who are in your will? Do you want to do more planning? Or maybe do you want to continue working with an attorney at this point? So you can see here on the right, the highlighted example, it asks, view reasons you might want to use an attorney. So again, it's just very helpful. So if you're not sure, they have this list. Maybe you have property in another state. Maybe you are going through a divorce. So any of these other reasons, it says, well, if you have these situations going on or conditions, you might want to work with an attorney because your estate is maybe a bit more involved. So a lot of flexibility. So if you do include us in your will or any other organization, you have the option to remain anonymous, or you can let us know. And I receive a notification if we are included in someone's will. And I also receive the contact information if the donor chooses to share it. But if you don't share it, then I don't find out. So when folks do include Animal Humane in their estate, they are members of our Constant Companion Society. Every year we have an invitation sit-down luncheon here in our campus for our Constant Companion Society. We're hoping we can have our next one perhaps in 2022 when it's safe to gather together. And we recognize every year estate gifts that we have received. In our bequest memorial wall, here is a picture of it. And if you come for a tour, I'd be happy to show you this wall. It's a very beautiful, particularly beautiful part of our campus. If your plan is for your pet to come to Animal Humane, I encourage you to let me give you a tour, even if you adopted your pet here. You may have just seen the dog or cat adoption areas, but I'm always happy to give a tour from the perspective of this is, if your pet comes here, this is where your pet would be living. This is where your pet would be cared for. This is where we would walk your pet. This is where we would play with your pet. So that can give a lot of peace of mind. And that's just kind of a different take on our campus. And I'm happy to show you this area of our campus as well. So for every gift we receive each year, our tile artist, as you can see, if the donor isn't anonymous, she makes a tile with the donor's name. And if we have information on what kind of pet the donor had, she will make actually a portrait of that pet to go right next to their name. If we don't have a photo of the pet, but perhaps a friend or family member or personal representative can say, well, this person always had tabby cats, or she loved pit bulls or poodles. Our artist will make a portrait based on what information she does have, and so they're really cute. So that concludes our presentation, my presentation. Our pets can't plan for their own future. So thank you for taking the time to make some plans. And we do have time for some Q&A if any questions have come in. I'll ask Erica to chime in and let us know.
Hi, Stephanie. We do have a couple of questions. So the first one is, do we have any tools to help determine how much money to leave to an adopter? And if they can't locate their own adopter, is it possible to leave us money to cover the pet's care that could then be passed on to an adopter who adopts that pet from us?
Yes, I think I've answered quite a bit of that in my presentation. I could certainly send you to be honest, when a question came up of how much do we leave, I just searched how to know how much to leave for your pet. And in general, the instructions that you see are narrative. I didn't find anything that was like a worksheet. That's something that I think we could probably create. A worksheet that guides you through thinking through the lifestyle, those lifestyle questions. How much food? How much does food cost? How much am I spending a year on vet care? Do I want my pet to go to a specific vet for the rest of her life? How much might that cost based on what medical conditions my pet has or might have? As I said, it is a gift, a guess. If your pet comes to us, again, I ask that you not necessarily tie a dollar amount to the care of your pet. We're not going to tie our care for your pet to how much money you leave us. We're going to care for your pet no matter what. If you have a gift that you leave to Animal Humane, we will not pass on money to an adopter if that is your wish. However, if you have a pet trust that you've set up and you want whoever adopts your pet to have access to that money, this hasn't happened since I've been here, but I imagine the way we would handle this is if a pet came to us, if your pet came to us and your family, friend, or your personal representative said, a pet trust has been set up for the care of this pet, and we knew that, we would not let a prospective adopter know that there was a trust until the adoption was finalized. The reason for that is we do not want to risk that someone is choosing your pet for adoption just because they know there is a trust available and money. But afterward, I could see us letting the adopter know the previous owner for this pet has set up a trust for their care. Here is the information if you choose to access it. And it would be up to that adopter whether or not they choose to look into and possibly access that trust money. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please follow up with me. I'm happy to continue talking through that.
Great. And we had just one more question that came in, Stephanie, and that was, can the pet power of attorney just be a signed personal letter, or does it need to be a more official, legal, certified by a notary, etc.?
That's a good question. You can definitely search. I was searching pet power of attorney, and let me look into that and confirm. There are do-it-yourself forms that are available online. They're like templates for power of attorneys. I don't know if they need to be notarized. It might be just a requirement that they are signed and witnessed. But let me check on that. I don't think power of attorneys in general are that difficult. They're not as formal as, say, a trust. So many of us have probably seen templates, for example, medical power of attorneys. They are just general templates that you can fill out and sign. And for example, I have one, I've made a copy, I've given it to my husband and vice versa. And I don't think we had those notarized. So I suspect a pet power of attorney doesn't have to be notarized, but I will confirm that, and I can certainly share that.
Hi, Stephanie. It looks like we have an attorney on the call.
Wonderful.
and and they actually said that yes.
I'm not an attorney. I'm definitely not an attorney or an estate professional.
That yes, the power of attorney must be notarized.
Okay, thank you.
And that looks like the last.
Thank you. Yeah, and with the caveat that I'm not an estate professional or attorney, I do know my limits. So if I'm working with you or trying to help you, if I don't have the answer, I will help us find it and get the right answer, because it is important. I certainly encourage folks to work with a professional. Thank you to whoever that attorney is who chimed in. So any other questions? Well, if that's it, thank you again for joining us. We are grateful for the love you have for your pets and for all of the homeless and rescue pets here in New Mexico. And you have a wonderful day. Thank you.